Hello and welcome to B&T how-to video. Today we're going to show you how to get an LED backlight for the GameCube Jewel on your GameCube. Now the Jewel is the plastic disc in the lid of the GameCube where it says Nintendo Gamecube on the top. Alright, before we get too deep into the weeds, let's go over the supply list you will need to do these procedures. First up, you will need a Nintendo Gamecube. Yours does not need to be purple and pink, but if you do, cool. You also need a screwdriver with I think it's a star bit. It's often called a game bit. The same bit is used in Super Nintendo, for N64, Super Nintendo. The system itself uses that size. The smaller one is used for the game cartridges. You're going to need a 3M Headlight Restoration Kit or a similar manufacturer restoration kit. These kits do come with a polishing pad and the polishing paste, but it's in a little one-time use bag, so I had already used that and I had other stuff. But if you buy it new, you don't need any other paste. You will also need the halo light. This comes in a pack of 2. This is a 70mm LED halo light. You will also need a small suction cup to hold the GameCube Jewel while you're sanding it. That's very helpful. You also need a soldering iron and some basic soldering skills. If you're not comfortable with soldering, this probably isn't going to be the mod for you. It's not super intense soldering, but it's going to need to be done. There's no other way to do it. And that's the supply list for this mod, for this build. Here is an example of said jewel. This one right here. This one I have not modified, though I have taken pieces off this game. This is just the lid of the GameCube. As you can see, it's just a lid with a painted handle. But this is what we're going to be putting an LED underneath this. Now there's actually no room underneath it, and I sanded this entire disc down until it was pretty flush with the top. Maybe it took about half hour to 45 minutes, but it was not difficult at all, and I'll try to go through all those steps and procedures I went through. But first, to actually get the disc out so that you can sand it down and all that other stuff, it's quite simple. There's a little tab outside of the ring, and that goes to the piece of plastic this is attached to. You push there, and there's 2 little locking tabs right here. So you just push these 2 little locking tabs, and you push them up, and then you push the other side. There we go. So these 2 little locking tabs right here, I went up there. On the other side, you just keep pushing those, and then it will pop out. So now you have this, and what you need to do is take this black plastic off. Pretty much the way I did it, I stuck a small thin screwdriver through this side right here, and it popped it off. So it came off like this. As you can see, it did crack. It's very strong adhesive, so it just broke off. I don't foresee you needing to actually save this, so it breaking is not the end of the world. And so once you get this out, you essentially put it off to the side. You put it aside, and it's no longer important right now, because the next step is to get your LEDs in here. Now the way I did that is I got a halo ring LED off of Amazon. It's actually designed to put in your headlight. So here's what it looks like. It's essentially a halo ring of LEDs. There's a little resistor in here, and when you give it 12 volts, it's insanely bright. This particular one is 70mm in diameter, so if you want to go this route, this one's 70mm. But what you're going to need to do is actually route this, wire it up to go through this hole right here. So you have to desolder this, place it in, run the wires underneath. I have an example of that, so we're going to switch over to the almost done GameCube and try and give you a rundown of how the wiring went. I didn't record anything while I was doing it, I was kind of in the zone, but I'll work backwards. So here's the GameCube I'm currently working on. As you can see, it's purple and pink. I am going with a Darkwing Duck theme. Whatever. But let me pop off the jewel. So as you can see, here's the ring. And let me lower this a little bit. And the wires are going through this notch up here. This notch. Now, the placement of the wires, the holes, or the solder points, didn't quite line up with where the wires needed to be. So I had to cut a little bit this direction to make room for both wires to fit in and to fit flush without one side being higher than the other or pinching anything. So that went down here. Alright, so here's the back side of the GameCube. I don't have any covers on it right now. I'm going to try and lift it. I made the wires a little bit too tight, so can't really lift too high. But let me see what I can do. Okay, so I have the wires coming through. It's actually soldered, or not soldered, but hot glued to the underside lid, and the wires come down this way. I then removed this power input board. Now the power input board where these wires are, or actually the whole thing, these points and then this one that goes to the main board, is 12 volts, which is what we need for the light, so that works out perfectly. Probably could solder to here. However, I felt this might have been the better option, not drawing directly from the input just in case I messed up. There's one screw here, so I removed that board, soldered to it, and put it back in. However, taking into account wire length, I considered wire length of it installed, not needing to be installed. I would recommend probably going a little bit longer than this. I think I have 5 inches of wire, maybe a little bit less, so 7 to 8 inches will make it a little bit easier. You could probably lift the lid off a lot easier. But that's pretty much it. So you solder to the underside of this connector right here, and black to black, red to red, and that's it. So when you plug it up, hit the power button, it turns on. Incredibly bright. It's incredibly bright light, which is good. What it does is it actually creates a glow for the GameCube logo, so that's perfect. And that's how you wire it up. It's not really complicated at all. It just involves some cutting. You do want to make sure the wires aren't getting caught into the power button. There was a few times I think they were near the spring and it just wouldn't fully engage. Let me tilt this up. And as you can see, there's let me get my pointer. There's a little bit of hot glue right here and here, and this piece. This is quite large, but if you take a pliers and just squeeze on it, you can pop the plastic off. And it's just a little resistor. I wrapped it in electrical tape just to give it a little extra protection. But with that plastic cover off, it takes up almost no space. So with that, we have the light wired up. So the next part is to get this disc to fit here. Now this one still has a plastic backing on it, but as you can see, it's not flush at all. And the biggest reason is, while this plastic has a little thickness, the black plastic bottom is nowhere near as thick as this LED light. So what needs to be done is it needs to be sanded down. So it needs to be sanded down pretty much all the way to get it to fit. So it kind of has that factory look. Just looking at it, no one's going to be like, hey, it's sticking up a few millimeters. What's up with your GameCube? It'll be flat. The way it works is, or the way I did it, was I had some leftover parts from a 3M Headlight Sanding Kit, which if you ever used one, if you haven't used one, you essentially use different levels of sandpaper to sand down the yellow on your headlights and you polish them up. I took that same philosophy, except for instead of sanding down yellow, I'm just trying to sand down layers of plastic. And the kit has a 500 grit sandpaper, 800, and then 3000. I spent most of the time with the 500 grit sandpaper, and it's pretty easy. You hook up to a drill and put on the pad and just sand it around. Hot tip on this: don't really worry about the whole thing. Just focus on the edge. The edges right here, sand that. The middle, hit it every now and then so it's not too dramatic of a change, but really just focus on the edges. Because if it's high in the middle and you have the edges right, it slopes up. So it's not that big of a deal. So that's the top tip, and it's gonna look like crap. It's gonna look super scratch. I mean, still it's scratched up when the light hits it right. But if you have the light at a different angle, it's extremely smooth, and it's shiny. But while you start and while you're doing it, it's gonna look like crap. But just keep going, keep sanding it, sanding around the edge. Like I said, the edge of the disc. Hit the middle every now and then, but just keep going until you get 90 to 99% to where the thickness you need. Example of this one, you put it down, it's there, and when it gets glued down, I'll push it down a little bit, and that'll probably take up any slack there might be, but it's pretty flush. It probably could go a little deeper, but it's good. It doesn't stand out. It's not completely obvious, other than maybe a little discoloring. So once you get to 90%, 95%, switch over to the 800 grit, and just use that to clean it up. Just hit it up. This one's just to take the thick scratches, and you're trying to just minimize them. You're trying to clean up the scratches so that they're less noticeable. So just clean it up. You're not trying to remove large quantities of plastic. You're just trying to smooth it out. And then once you do that, switch over to 300 grit, and just again more smoothing out. You're taking those scratches or whatever the scratches that are left on it, and you're just smoothing it out just even more. The whole time you're doing this with the 500 grit, the 800 grit, and even the 3000, every now and then you're going to want to hit it with some compressed air, or take a wet rag and just wipe off the disc and the sandpaper. That way you're not just moving the dust around, you're actually hitting the plastic and pulling off some new layers of plastic. But yeah, so like I said, it's a slowish process. It's not super fast, but it was about an hour. So I guess long-term things, it's not like the most difficult thing ever. You take some headlight cleaning paste. I had some from Meguiar, and I put that on there and just rubbed it in, and it looked really good. The edges look kind of frosty, misty. I don't know. They look scratched up. And I know it's kind of weird saying, but it looks kind of scratched up, or like there was some type of film on it, but it looked almost underneath the plastic. That was just areas that need to be smoothed up and cleaned up. I went and took the 3000 grit and just kept sanding in those areas, and put some more of the rubbing compound cleaner, the headlight cleaner, and it really took care of that kind of frosty mist look. It just needed to be sanded down a little bit more with the 3000 grit, and that was it. The light's still incredibly bright. As you can see when you turn it on, you can see the individual LEDs of this light band. I went through and tried spray painting the bottom side. I put tape over Nintendo Gamecube part of the disc and spray paint everything else, thinking the paint would mute the light from shining straight through it, and it didn't do anything. It didn't affect it at all. So just to give you an idea how bright these lights are, later I'm going to try some electrical tape and see if that can dull down the light, because I really just want the GameCube logo to illuminate. Well, this has been the quick and dirty how-to of how to put a LED light into your GameCube. If you found it helpful, cool, give it a thumbs up. If you have questions, leave a comment. I'll try to help you. I'm not an expert at this, but I'll try to get back and give you at least my feedback or what I was able to do and accomplish. Please subscribe and join the channel, and have a good day. Bye-bye.